hot water with cold pensioners, and why Meghan Markle has joined the trad wife trend. I'm Leo Kearson. Tonight, I've got the comedians Paul Cox and Kerry Marks taking you through Friday's top stories. There they are. Don't they look ready? This is Headliners. But before we look at Saturday's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sam Francis.
Well, the top story tonight, Nigel Farage has rejected any links between his party and Tommy Robinson after Elon Musk threw his support behind the jailed activist. At Reform UK's conference in Leicester earlier, Farage made it clear that Robinson, who is currently serving time for contempt of court, isn't someone his party needs. That's despite Mr Musk calling him a hero for standing up to grooming gangs. Well, our political editor Chris Hope asked Farage earlier if Elon Musk had become a political risk to Reform UK.
Britain's been terribly badly led, and that the grooming scandal, the mass rape scandal, which has resurfaced, and transcripts of what was said in court have been online, and I recommend you at home don't read them. You won't sleep at night. And so, yes, he is attacking the leadership in Britain. He's very supportive of me. He's very supportive of the party.
Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs have been slammed today by the Health Secretary, as misjudged and misinformed. The billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments of exploitation in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Musk for sharing what they described as factually inaccurate claims and warned against distracting from survivors' needs. But Wes Streeting has hit back, urging Musk to help tackle rape gangs.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
Flu cases in hospitals across England have quadrupled in a month, with over 5,000 patients treated just last week alone. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to breaking point amid what's expected this weekend, a cold snap. Health officials are urging vulnerable people to stay warm and ensure medications are on hand, with just 37% of people deemed at risk vaccinated so far. Emergency department waits are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more last week. Hospitals are adding beds and support, but NHS leaders say the system remains in national vulnerability. The UK is bracing for a bitter Arctic blast this weekend, with fresh amber warnings for snow and ice across England and Wales. Temperatures plunged to minus 8.1 degrees overnight, bringing widespread frost and treacherous conditions. The severe weather warnings will cover northern England, the Midlands and much of Wales from tomorrow evening, and all of England remains under amber cold weather health alerts, with vulnerable groups increased risk. Well, those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. Before we dive in, let's take a look at what Paul and Kerry will have to work with on Saturday's front pages. The Times leads with Starmer in Trump's sight. The Daily Mail has Starmer guilty as anyone over grooming gangs. We're going to get to that story in a moment. The Daily Express has it's a cop-out on social care reforms. The Eye has Starmer faces growing threat from reform over migration, poll reveals. The Mirror has nice littler earner, that's Luke Littler, who just won the darts. And the Daily Star has Secretary of State for the Bleeding Obvious, that's Wes Streeting, telling people to put on a jumper if it gets cold. OK, let's take a closer look at those front pages, starting with Saturday's Mail, Paul.
Yeah, the Daily Mail, Starmer, guilty as anyone over grooming gangs. And this is the words of ex-detective Maggie Oliver, of course, a whistleblower, and features heavily in Charlie Peters' explosive and excellent report for GB News. And she thinks the PM must bear some responsibility for widespread failure to bring those responsible to justice. And she went onto X and said, those leading these inquiries have always wanted to cover up the truth, to hide it. And I'd say it's become even worse in recent months, with those who dare to speak out finding themselves in prison within a couple of days, when victims wait 6, 7, 8 years for a trial. Corrupt and just wrong.
Yeah.
So, look, let's make no mistake, this is Britain's darkest secret currently, and we should be thanking people like Elon Musk for talking about it. And as far as I'm concerned, almighty hell should be unleashed on anybody who has stood in the way of justice. How the UK can look the rest of the world in the eye until we have a full and transparent public national inquiry over the child grooming gang scandal is beyond me. And I don't care if the whole seedy house of playing cards comes tumbling down and every elite big fat cat gets exposed. We have to do this, and we have to do it now.
I mean, it does seem there's suspicions that that's why it's not being turned over and cast into the light, because so many people in the establishment would get dragged down by this. And, you know, there's implications here that Keir Starmer might be one of them, Kerry. I mean, he was director of the head of the Crown Prosecution Service.
There's a bad smell to all of this, and yes, heads will roll, and Jess Phillips being criticised for not wanting to be a part of this, or not wanting to encourage it, and whether that's also to protect Keir Starmer for the same reason, but. And she's supposed to be the safeguarding minister. This is not much in the way of safeguarding, other than safeguarding her electability in a constituency where she did complain last time during the general election of election intimidation. So I imagine she's really fearful of this, you know. And a lot of people are. So, yeah, this is, as you said, the former detective makes it sound like she's just, you know, followed some clues and solved this, but, of course, she was deeply involved in the case.
Yeah, she was working for Greater Manchester Police
that's right,
at the time.
Yeah.
And was a lot of public servants came forward, not just in the police, but in other parts of you know, social care and things like that. Some of them were incredibly. They were sent on diversity training when they said, "Oh, we've got these Pakistani Muslim gangs that are targeting white and Sikh girls."
Sure.
They were sent on diversity training because the diversity training seems to be there to reinforce, to instruct people what the correct opinions are, rather than to, you know, actually improve, you know, any of the issues.
It's a mind game, really. And when you get into the detail of all this, you find so much from victims who were told they were being racist by even calling it in the first place. I'm going to read out this one. You just read out some of her stuff, and I think this paragraph's particularly strong. Is we all know what's going on, but I don't trust a single one of those who to date have been entrusted with keeping our children safe and prosecuting serial rapists. They've failed repeatedly, knowingly, criminally.
Yeah.
This is very strong stuff. And I've seen today, it's been interesting to watch typical social media explosion in both directions. And so there's a lot of people I know in the business and so on as well, who I think have moved into the realm of rape apologists right now, and sort of want to play all this down, and they want to say, yes, but white people do this and so on, which is, that's not relevant to this case.
It's whataboutery. It's whataboutery.
Yeah, it's whataboutery, but it's also a massive difference. If someone in your household, if one of your family has dangerous, nutty moments and so on, that's a problem for your family. If you have a house guest who's doing it, that's different. You know, that's a different discussion completely. But also, let's keep getting back to, this is about the victims. It's not about the Prime Minister. It's not about whose heads are going to roll. That's all inconsequential. That happens as a result. And with all the discussion going on both sides, people wanted playing it down,
but
people are playing up.
I think it is important that people are brought to justice.
No, I do. What I'm saying is that's secondary to let's give the victims some closure on this,
Paul,
to say what happened and why, and can it be stopped from ever happening again.
Completely agree.
And whoever's heads roll, that's what happens.
And Paul, I mean, it's great to see America bringing its diplomatic weight. I mean, Trump isn't even in office yet. He will be soon, but there's the threat. Bill Ackman, for example, has suggested sanctions against Britain. Because, I mean, as has been pointed out on this channel, I think Nick Dixon pointed it out, if there's a country with a dictator who is allowing people to do this, allowing his preferred group of people who are given favouritism to run around raping children, we would we would press sanctions on that country for its behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget, this didn't happen last week.
Yeah.
You'd think so.
Well, it could well have happened last week as well.
That's a very good point. It could be happening right now, unfortunately. But that's why it's important because Elon Musk is being criticised right now, and I'd been the first to say previously that I wouldn't, I'd be sceptical of foreign influence in UK politics. However, when homegrown people in power have done absolutely nothing year after year, party after party, organisation after organisation, then Elon Musk is very welcome to come in and say, what on earth is going on here?
Yeah.
It's as much wrong for him to get involved as it is sad that if he's having to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Both sides of it are true. So.
Absolutely. Maybe they'll storm the beaches and retake Britain.
I think whatever happens with this, because of all the talk going on and because everyone needs to know what is the actual truth here, what happened, who did what, who knew what, who didn't do anything. Inquiry, there needs to be an inquiry.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we need to move on, but I've got to read out this right of reply from the Home Office. So they've said no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation. Everyone who's responsible for children's welfare must learn from past mistakes and do everything possible to prevent future failures. And Jess Phillips, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips, responded to the Council's request, acknowledging the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken. In letters to the Council Executive, Phillips apologised for delays in responding, but maintained that local authorities should take the lead, saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. And she welcomed the Council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. OK, moving on, we've got the Daily Telegraph.
That was really helpful, that statement, by the way. Changes everything, doesn't it? Yeah. Back to what I said. Let's have an inquiry.
Yeah.
OK, so we're on the Daily Telegraph, and I'll rush out a few of the smaller stories at the bottom. Paul, jump in if you want to on any of these ones.
OK, mate.
French prefer beer to wine for the first time. So now they've finally realised that beer is better than their wine. I don't know what we're supposed to do with that story. If you're going to a party in France, you should now take beer.
I wouldn't.
I think that's all I'm taking. That's all I've gained from that story.
Is this because beer has become fancier? It's become poncier and more expensive. Now it tastes of flowers and washing up liquid. It used to just taste of beer.
Poncier, of course, being a French word.
Yeah.
Other things going on. PM and Trump brace for free speech battle, which is, I don't think that's what I think it is. If that's like an aggressive roast between the Prime Minister and Trump, I'm watching. I really want to see that happen. Maybe we can have like a boxing ring for it happening. Netherlands names Nazi collaborators. So what's happening is the laws changed there, allowing them to now release documents to say how many Nazi collaborators there were, and it turns out it's the whole country.
Right.
Absolutely everyone. There's actually 32 million people, million pages of just lists and lists of names. 32 million.
So are these Nazi collaborators from the Second World War?
Yeah, but who would have thought so in such an anti-Semitic country?
32 million pages.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Netherlands, that sounds like inflated figures.
It could well be.
That can't possibly be right. There weren't 32 million people in the Netherlands. Unless, I don't want to be a Netherlands denier.
It's not 32 million people. It's 32 million pages with several people on each page.
Yeah, that's more.
There's at least 100 million people in a country of 25 million people that are Nazi sympathisers.
And are there any important stories?
Well, I mean... Kerry said he was going to read a few of the small stories at the bottom of the page, and he read them all, God bless him. Fast-track NHS care for asylum seekers. So this is quite an incredible story, actually. Migrants seen in under 15 minutes, while general public sit in growing waiting lists.
That's horrible. Can't we get it down to 10 minutes?
Yeah, well, it's incredible. So
having to wait.
Just give some context, because obviously the headline is designed to wind up many of us, including me and Leo, but 12-hour delays are about the average expected in A&E, OK?
For us.
For us. Me and you go in. However, if you are an illegal immigrant, specifically an illegal immigrant, someone without papers, or perhaps a homeless person, or maybe a drug addict, and I'm not putting any of those three together.
Well, as a Scottish man, I'm usually one of them.
Yeah, so it could be all three, mate. So this was under an initiative, I think it was called something like 987, something like that. It's like they misspelt the emergency code. But it was designed to help people that didn't have papers to get through. But what it's managed to achieve is record-breaking times in which you could be seen in A&E. When you compare that with people that are going, like elderly people, grandparents, family members go in and they die on the trolley outside, it's a bit of a scandal, to be honest.
Yeah, this is absolutely disgusting. I mean, people coming here are being elevated above British people who've paid into the system. I mean, the system is surely there for British people. I hate to sound, nationalist or patriotic, but can't we at least have the same rights as asylum seekers, please?
Yes.
The British people who've built this system.
It's also, this is so much the conversation at the moment. How do they expect this to go down with the public?
Perhaps I want to congratulations.
I like the fact there's a line here. I can't find the line. It's in too small writing for me right now, but it says something about one of the reasons for doing this is because the asylum seekers come in with more diseases. They bring diseases.
That just immediately racist.
Imagine if we were the ones saying that.
I mean, I think Leo did once on his own show. But there's also another story which I think is really interesting.
I'm going to say, by the way, that there's a loophole here is to, if you do have any urgent conditions, relinquish your citizenship.
Yeah.
Leave this country, then come back straight away.
Dress up as an asylum seeker.
Yeah,
dress up as a jihadi and turn up
then you're in.
And this other story about net zero fines.
Yes.
Yeah, net zero fines. I just had visions of walking into A&E with a dinghy over my back. Net zero fines to kill off cheap car deals. So this is harsh net zero fines, which car makers are going to be suffering from. They're going to take those fines and essentially stop producing or helping sell petrol second-hand cars. So if you want to go and buy one between now and 2030, good luck.
What if I want to sell mine, though?
Well, who are you going to sell it to?
That's good, then.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, who are you going to sell it to? You potentially...
I like it. I'm for it,
let's remind everyone, net zero is we're supposed to be hit the half target by 2030 and full net zero by 2050. I mean...
Impossible.
We can't even keep our old people warm.
And just let the market do it. This is not the time to be laying fines of £15,000 a car on... It's essentially going to have to be paid by the buyers. Yeah. But moving on, let's try and squeeze in the Mirror, because Luke Littler has had a very good evening.
Yeah, great stuff. Nice Littler earner. This is the story is essentially about teen sensation Luke Littler, world champion team sensation, I should say. He's the ace is set for a £50 million career. I think he'll probably end up with a lot more than that, and all power to his elbow, literally. Great that. I watched this tonight. I watched this as I prepared for headliners. Yeah. This is a protege. He really is. He beat Michael van Gerwen, who's a 3-time world champion, and it was like he was just playing a small boy. Yeah. And that's not to be disrespectful towards Michael van Gerwen, because he played as well as he possibly could do. But Luke Littler is different gravy. He's absolutely a level above, and congratulations to him.
Are we not going to have my opinion on this?
Yes.
No, go on.
Right.
It's darts. It's the soul of Britain.
Yeah. Good.
I remember they banned walk-on girls.
I'm happy for him.
They banned walk-on girls at the darts, which enabled feminists to start enjoying the darts.
They're back again, by the way.
Are they back again?
Yeah, there's pom-poms. I think that's what they call them.
This is why you're watching. Anyway, that's the front page is done. Coming up, Elon Musk is in trouble for highlighting the grooming gang scandal. Will they manage to shoot the messenger? And why Trump doesn't want us to tax North Sea oil? And is the government keeping us safe enough from terrorism? This is Headliners only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Restaurant St. Bart's executive head chef Johnny Crowe creates ramen with a British twist, using only the finest UK-sourced produce. As the only restaurant in London to hold both a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, St. Bart's emphasises sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. The sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, trying to make a restaurant and a business that is overly sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
So one of the main things that we've really tried to do is focusing on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
We have a lot of farms near St. Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But no, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got The Independent now with more bad news for the Tories as another Tory MP jumps ship. This time it's Marco Longhi. Isn't that a brand of coffee machine, Paul?
Yes, please. Sorry, I'm still laughing at something we said in the break. Former Conservative MP Marco Longhi defects to Nigel Farage's Reform UK
we
party.
Back into the break. Are you okay?
Ex-MP attacks Tories, saying the party of Churchill and Thatcher, like we need reminding, has transformed into something unrecognisable. In another blow to new Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch. It's a death of 1,000 cuts for the Conservatives at the moment, Leo, isn't it? It really is.
There's a letter out of cuts there.
Yes, I think they might well have done. This is what happens, though, when you sell your voters down the river. And you sell your voters down the river thinking they have got no one else to vote for, and then, Nigel Farage and Reform come sailing along and pick every one of these people up, and it's growing and it's growing and it's growing, and goodness only knows where it's going to end. Perhaps with a new Prime Minister one day.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the odds are looking good for Nigel Farage actually being the next Prime Minister, and it's interesting here that Marco Longhi says that the Tories have been captured by a left-wing influence that masquerades as conservatism at election time, while prioritising the wishes of an elite few when in power. That's pretty damning words, and it kind of validates what other people have said about the Conservatives. They're not Conservative anymore.
Totally, yeah. But at the same time, Reform are on a rise at the moment, which and the Conservatives are exactly where you'd expect them to be after 14 years of power, and the way in which they sort of just dropped out of nowhere. And of course, it's still going. Kemi's got a hell of a gig on to try and bring the Conservatives back in time. And I think she might stand. If it was just the Conservatives v Labour right now, then it's down to Labour killing themselves, which they're sort of doing. They're doing so much damage to their own reputation that Tories might have stood a chance. But it looks like Farage is going to take a lot of that.
Yeah.
And continue. The same is not happening on the other side. It's not that Labour is losing a lot of votes to Corbyn's totally based on one identity 2,000 miles away whilst ignoring all the other suffering identities across the Middle East, Africa and the rest of the world party. So that's not happening on that side. But there is a lot movement from the left as well going towards reform.
On the left, there is the Muslim vote. So, there's a block of 5 or 6 MPs who got elected on Muslim issues, Gaza MPs, essentially. Yeah. And that's likely to grow. And
I think so.
was nearly a much more substantial block.
Do you think that's likely to grow?
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it definitely. I mean, both Jess Phillips,
God bless her, that party.
And Wes Streeting in particular came very, very close to being beaten by independents.
A few hundred votes.
And that's only going to get worse for them, I think, if Reform grow, because you're going to end up with Reform being labelled as the anti-Muslim party, and every mosque in the country will rally against that, and that'll see out a few of the Labour voters. Labour MPs that they would normally have been voted in.
Yeah.
And, of course, the red wall that was the blue wall was now the red wall again.
I don't know. Hold on. Are you talking about for the next local elections or by the next general election? I would think whatever's going on in the Middle East will have changed so dramatically in that time.
I don't mean to associate with the Middle East whatsoever. What's going on in this country and this country alone is so relevant now when it comes to the independent Muslim MPs.
Yeah.
They are standing on blasphemy laws, they are standing against traditional British cultural values, and they are winning. And when reform, they're not winning in huge numbers, but I don't see them getting attacked.
Yep, and of course the population is growing at a clip. Moving on, we've got The Guardian now, and Musk has been accused of politicising the grooming gang scandal. I think it should be politicised, since politics is how you fix things like this, Kerry.
Yes, and after all, he is in a political position right now with Trump, so it's hardly surprising. It's an odd one that we talked about this before about him stepping in. But what's interesting here, I'm seeing, is just the way The Guardian and The Telegraph, which we mentioned only a few moments ago, are both approaching this in different ways. So they've both found their expert with an opinion. And what The Telegraph went with was Maggie Oliver, who, of course, is an ex-detective who was involved with the case. And what The Guardian are going with is an ex-health worker who's giving opinions here about Musk's motives. She's saying that that his intentions are wrong and so on. But why is The Guardian publishing a view of an ex-health worker on the motives behind anything he Musk is doing?
It's all they've got.
Saying that.
And why do the left
right.
always focus on the motives as opposed to the reality of what's happened to these girls and what needs to be done about it, and justice being served?
But I'm also just saying that she is not an expert on the motives. She's not a psychologist. Why are they doing this anyway? The UK needed to get to the bottom of the motivations of paedophile rings, which she said were often dominated by Asian men. So actually, she's on the same. She is saying there's something there to investigate. But then they get into the father of girl A, and this is what they quote. The father of girl A, who was one of the victims, the man whose eldest daughter was known as Girl A during court proceedings said it is strange that the richest man in the world has got time to start getting involved in UK politics. Now, whether he said that as some kind of side note or not is interesting, because in the same story of The Telegraph, they also talk to the same man who is the father of Girl A. And he says that there's a whole page without mentioning that at all. The father of the victim of the Rochdale scandal backed calls for a national inquiry into Britain's untouchable grooming gangs, and then he talks for paragraph to paragraph why that would be an important thing to do.
Yeah.
And The Guardian have left that out completely.
So they've cherry-picked the data to suit their agenda. Well, we've got the iNews now, and the government is under fire for not erecting diversity barriers to stop Islamist attacks. I can think of another solution that doesn't require barriers, Paul.
I'm just laughing because you call them diversity barriers. A permanent anti-terror barriers still not built across UK despite 2017 attacks. So the UK has failed to install permanent anti-terror barriers in key public locations such as Edinburgh's Royal Mile and London Bridge, more than 7 years after the London Bridge attack in 2017. And I find this fascinating. I find the psychology of this fascinating. We have taken things for granted, haven't we, somewhat? We've stopped being shocked by these barriers now. And this it's almost become an inevitable part of life. We've designed our cities to protect us against these types of attacks.
And you can see when they forget to put the barriers up, or the barriers aren't perfect, like at the German Christmas market or New Orleans, people can get through and slaughter dozens.
Whilst I believe that we should have these barriers, because we have to, unfortunately, instead, why are we not talking about, or why should we not be discussing why we're allowing this type of hatred of Western societies, internal within Western societies, to be able to perform these terror attacks on a ridiculously regular basis?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if there is a terror attack on the Royal Mile, it's going to be very difficult to know who the victims are, because those youth drama groups always like to lie on the cobbles holding up the flyers.
That's one for the Edinburgh goers.
Yes, absolutely. And also they're saying they can't afford it in Edinburgh, but they could just take the money they make from accommodation for comedians
from
during
one
the festival,
flat.
and they make a fortune. This story is basically a load of old bollards, as they know it is, and it's about the barriers to security. I see you want to move on, but anyway, build the things.
You deserve to get
Still
that
to
in.
come, a teacher is in trouble for calling a pupil a fat slug. I've got to be careful how I pronounce that. Keir Starmer is skipping a queue, and is Meghan trying to appeal to right-wing men? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead, multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice. So do stay up to date on our website for those. For Friday evening, however, plenty of clear spells as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. So likely to see some icy stretches. Once again, also a widespread frost. And then towards northern areas, this is where we have our yellow ice warning in force. So likely to see the bulk of the icy conditions here. But even across the south, likely to see a widespread sharp frost and also a chance of some ice here too. But plenty of clear skies overnight means temperatures are soon going to drop away. Most towns and cities dropping below zero by the time we reach Saturday morning. So a very cold start to Saturday, but there's also going to be lots of bright weather around too. Still can't rule out some showers around coastal areas of Scotland, particularly in the north where they're likely to fall as sleet and snow, mainly across hills, but we could also see some flurries to lower levels too. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a cold, icy start, still with a few showers feeding in around coasts. Also northwestern coast of Wales could see some showers, but for the bulk of England and Wales, largely dry and plenty of bright sunshine to start the day. But as I say, cold with a sharp frost and a risk of ice. Then through much of the day, there'll be plenty of dry weather around. Still, once again, those showers feeding into those northwestern coasts. And then a change on the way as we start to see the system push up from the southwest. So heavy outbreaks of rain by the afternoon, perhaps even some sleet and snow towards high ground across southern parts of Wales and also southwest England. But for the bulk of the country, lots of dry weather around on Saturday. Sunday, the system then becomes more widespread, seeing some outbreaks of snow, particularly across parts of Wales and northern England, where it could be disruptive at times. And even across the south, there's a chance we could see some freezing rain, so also some icy conditions possible. More sunshine as we head into next week, though it is going to be remaining cold. Bye-bye for now.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Times leads with Starmer in Trump's sight. The Daily Mail has Starmer as guilty as anyone over grooming gangs. That's according to whistleblower Maggie Oliver. The Daily Express has it's a cop-out on social care reforms. The Eye leads with Starmer faces growing threat from reform over migration, poll reveals. And the Mirror has nice Littler earner. That's Luke Littler, who just won the darts. And the Daily Star has Secretary of State for the Bleeding Obvious. That's Wes Streeting, which is the story we're going into now. Wes Streeting has ordered cold pensioners to just wear more clothes. I thought he was a socialist. He sounds more like Ayn Rand, Kerry.
Yeah, but that's the word on the streeting. Wes Streeting says pensioners should layer up as millions struggle without winter fuel payment. It's an embarrassing situation for them, isn't it? Because what can he say, really? They put out a yellow warning for snow, which I thought that meant don't eat the snow. It's a different kind of yellow warning, apparently. But it covers most of England and Wales, and apparently it's going to be worse in Scotland. I don't know why they mentioned that. That's a given, isn't it? Because everything's worse in Scotland. You should know that. So here's the advice he has given, bearing in mind that what he would really like to say is we're going to give old people heating. But he can't say that. So what he said instead is layer up, and then, you know, that's brilliant, but there's more. He said... turn the heating on.
Wow,
So
Paul,
this
is amazing advice, isn't it?
This is a health secretary, by the way, and this isn't his job for the next 2 months.
You can see how he got the job.
It's to go on to TV and just say, come on, guys, it's getting cold, wrap up warm.
Yeah.
I know you can't afford to turn your heating on. Some of you may even be dead listening to this, but please do wrap up warm even if you are dead.
And, of course, our advice would be to strip naked and whip each other with birch twigs.
We certainly will be doing that ourselves.
If someone does that, that's on you. we did not agree to that, so do not do that, honestly. Go and put oil under your feet. Don't slip around, have fun.
Good luck finding a birch tree in Britain.
Yeah, totally. But guess what the what the Labour Party has defended themselves with about all this is a 22 billion black hole.
Right. Oh, really? The black hole again has come back.
So,
lovely bit of black holes.
What can they do?
Nonsense.
Yeah. And actually, Age UK said it might be bad advice, apparently. So wearing more layers and staying in bed for longer might have worked for older people when the weather was mild, but now it's got really cold and there's snow and frost around. It won't be enough to keep them adequately warm. So there's some cheery stuff.
So you're whipping themselves might be a good idea, actually. That keeps you warm, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've tried it.
Totally.
Anyway, we've got the Times now, and a teacher is in trouble for calling a child a fat slug. Yeah, that's a fat slug, not the Viz characters. It sounds much worse in some accents, Kiri.
Oh, I've got the wrong story here, but...
Ken.
Do you want to start with it? And I'll patch up.
Head called pupil fat slug avoids teaching ban.
Hold on, why did you go to me one fat slug anyway? That's why I've got out of this. It's yours fault.
Did you want to take it from the...
Don't make me sprinkle some salt on both of you.
So Nicola Brogan made abusive remarks about primary school children, teachers, parents, and conduct hearing found. So this all took place in a WhatsApp group, believe it or not. And I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know this sort of thing went on in WhatsApp groups, but...
never in a WhatsApp group I've been in.
No, never seen
names.
Never seen anything like that, not at all. But, I'll read out some of these things. She was based. She seriously... She described one male member of staff as Captain Camp, and we'll leave that up to your imagination why, in reference to his sexuality in actual fact. Referred to someone as a fat F,
finish that sentence.
No, and I can't afford
the rest of that one.
I can't finish the rest of the sentence either.
Can we say that?
No,
we can't.
No. Well, another person.
Can't we get Paul to say it?
No, I'm actually getting. Well, there was a Scottish. Someone of Scottish heritage was referred to as an effing jock.
Oh, she went too far. She went too far.
That was the nicest thing I could find.
Scotophobia.
Yes.
This is the plague of Britain in 2024. But she got amazing results, Kiri. She led Woodland Community Primary School out of special measures. Primarily by calling people names.
Yes, she's either funny and underappreciated, or she's an awful human being. I can't really work it out. I thought she had said a thing, but it turns out there's just loads of these here.
Turns out Special Measures was what she called one of the children as well.
What was that?
Special Measures was a nickname.
Yeah, but I do like that the panel concluded that Brogan's actions amounted to unacceptable professional conduct, but said that they're not recommending a prohibition order, and that was a proportionate response. How lovely to see a proportionate response in this day and age.
I know, that's a good point,
woman
actually.
said some things. They've said, don't say it again, carry on with your work.
Yeah.
Wow.
I nearly lost my job reading about it.
Yeah.
A bit of common sense. Moving on, we've got the Daily Mail now, and Keir Starmer jumped a 3-hour queue while on holiday. Honestly, is this guy even British, Paul?
It's unbelievable. Honestly, prepare yourself for some more Keir shenanigans. Moment Keir Starmer skipped 3-hour line for toboggan ride during family holiday to Madeira. Our producer, Mariana, is from Madeira, actually. She's lovely, and so is Madeira, I'm told. The Labour leader was escorted to the front of the line on a trip to the Portuguese Atlantic island of Madeira ahead of others who had waited up to 3 hours for their turn. In footage shared on social media, one yelled at Keir Starmer, "Get to the back of the queue." Now, who would have thought it, eh? The evil prosecutor doesn't like to queue. I'm surprised that heckler didn't get 2 years in prison. The more we learn about Keir Starmer, the less there is to like, and there was nothing to like in the first place.
Yeah. You don't like him, do you?
No, I do not like him at all.
There's so many clues in the things that you say that I can work out. Look, on the one hand, I would say there should be some perks to the job.
Yeah.
Right? And on holiday, Keir Starmer, you get away with pushing that. Who's queuing for 3 hours to go on a toboggan anyway? I would push in front of them.
It's a good point.
I go, what kind of idiots? I've been on big ski
I've allowed
slopes. I go
my
down a whole
dislike of
mountain.
Starmer to...
There could have been sick kids who didn't get to go on the toboggan because of Keir Starmer.
No.
I should point out, just in Keir Starmer's defence, local authorities on the island said that he should skip the queue. So he was only following orders.
But yes.
An excuse used before, I believe.
It's also, he's a Prime Minister. You don't want to get assassinated waiting in a toboggan queue, do you? That'd be very embarrassing.
Ignominious way to get assassinated.
Terrible. But after the free gift scandal, this was like the dumbest thing possible to do, wasn't it?
Yeah. Two-tier toboggan
For a while, he should be queuing for everything and paying for absolutely everything, and for a good few months yet as well.
And no holidays, just working in a salt mine, wearing a itchy shirt. We've got The Guardian now reporting on the #1 issue for leftists this week. Tuberculosis in Pakistan's transgender community, Kerry.
Very odd story. Shunned and shamed, Pakistan's trans community finally gets help for TB. So this is a town in Pakistan. I'm going to say Rawalpindi. Am I good?
That's brilliant, yeah.
I think so. I thought brilliant.
You've got the job.
It might be. So there's a transgender community. This is partly what it is now. They are able to go to screening camps for TB.
Right.
Which. And this is partly to do with some changes in the law in Pakistan, but I think it's also to do with there's similar stuff going on in some other Islamic countries where being gay is completely wrong. And being trans is a kind of midway that allows you to go. So
in Iran, being gay is punishable by death, I believe, in Iran.
Yeah.
So they give gay men the choice. You can either transition to being a woman, which makes it OK, or we can kill you.
Yeah, there's your choices. Enjoy.
Yeah. It's sort of like having liberal parents in the UK.
Yes.
Who would have thought it, eh? The country that brought us grooming gangs isn't tolerant of trans people. I mean, it's stories like this that make us realise just how different our cultures are. And it's sorry to see, and it's a shame. I do feel sorry for these people, but it's just highlighting yet again that we have some way between us and them.
Yeah, and it does seem
to be the same. Can you imagine if The Guardian was reporting that there's one little town in Britain where people who are trans or anything can get scanned for TB? That would be terrible, wouldn't it? That would be a shock. You find out how awful our country is.
Well, yeah,
but here they're doing it in the opposite way. They're going, "Hey, guess what?"
Well, and the stigma and everything they're subjected to, which will be coming to the UK soon, no doubt, with the cultures growing here. Well, the Telegraph now with more proof that lockdown was a horrific mistake that did more harm than good. It made a generation of babies stupider.
Well,
stupid babies.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Dear, oh dear. Lockdown babies can't respond to their own name. They're not dogs, but they are babies. Children who were born during lockdown and started school this year are unable to respond to their own names, experts have warned. Almost 3/4. That's like 75%, man, of teachers said...
You weren't born during lockdown.
said COVID babies, i.e. babies born in 2020, had more pronounced difficulties than previous year groups, including 44% who said they were much less school ready. Wow. I mean, it's almost as if, like you say, lockdowns have turned out to be much worse for people than COVID ever was.
A lot of unintended consequences.
Yeah, well, and there were some warning signs, actually. But someone said lockdown longer and harder. I think that might have been Keir Starmer. It's time to, we should be slightly... I should add some balance here for a change. I mean, I'm just getting on my hobby horse about Keir Starmer tonight. But there has been a trend towards kids not being school-ready for some time.
Yeah.
But it does seem to be overly pronounced from the kids that were born during that period of 2020 to 2021.
Yeah.
And it's a worry. And amongst those things are kids not being toilet trained.
Yeah.
And what is happening is schools are getting in touch with parents saying, look, and you're told this as a parent. I know your child will be there in the next year or two. You are told that they really should be toilet trained.
I was told that when I got to work.
Yeah, good
my
point.
nappy off.
But but they're finding
Can you put it back on? Honestly, it's awful.
I'm trying to deliver serious news.
Yeah.
I'm not actually, but it's a huge worry, and it's just one more thing, isn't it?
I'm going to say we don't know. We don't know this is because of lockdown. It could just be that for 2 years babies were born stupid.
Yeah.
Do you know
maybe
what I mean?
people are using screens.
No reason that we've figured out yet. Sorry, go on.
Could be screens.
It could be what?
Screens, like babies that are on screens now.
Or they just happen to be born stupid suddenly. We don't know.
Yeah.
But they're called the lockdown babies and COVID babies, which that's how I was talking about this at the time, saying there's going to be a COVID generation.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to grow up and they're all going to be having to keep 2 metres apart from each other and wearing masks and washing out their hands constantly. We don't. It's exactly what you say. We do not. It's going to take years to discover the full human cost of what happened back there.
Well, still to come, should you eat weeds? The Guardian asks if it's OK to abuse people online, and what happens when you quit alcohol. Well, you might feel better, but people do get uglier. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast for GB News. Over the next few days, things will be turning more unsettled across southern parts of Europe. We'll see a few showers across the Canary Islands and Madeira on Friday, some sunshine too. Sunshine for southern parts of Spain, rain further north, and as we head into central and southeastern parts of Europe, much more in the way of unsettled weather here. Plenty of rain around, some snow on the hills, and temperatures will be struggling in places too. As for the next few days into the weekend and the start of next week, we hold on to that mixed theme, plenty of sunshine but further showers at times as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Ellie Costello, and thank you so much for joining us here on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't actually been told specifically what I've done,
Right.
which has resulted in me being removed from my committee position, which was head of daytime. I started a podcast in September in which I interviewed Charlie Bentley-Astor, who's a detransitioner. I then also interviewed Graham Linehan, and I wrote an article for his Substack. And shortly after that, I was told that I had been suspended, and the university union started an investigation into me. And that very quickly became apparent to me that it was an interrogation of my gender-critical views rather than any sort of misconduct that I had been alleged to.
Right.
And Graham Linehan has been outspoken on issues relating to transgender ism, whatever you want to call it, gender ideology. And so perhaps just by having associated yourself with him as a controversial figure, that was why the investigation happened, you suspect?
Yes, and already it's quite clear that guilt by association is a crime that you can commit within university societies. I actually purchased my free speech union membership way before this all happened, when a friend helped me edit the episode with Charlie, and he got in trouble with a separate society who told him that he must disassociate himself from me, and if he didn't, further measures would be taken. So at that point, I thought, wow, I better put some damage control in place and purchase my membership in case anything happens to me.
So this decision is made by the student union, right? Is that made up of fellow students? Or who's making this call?
Well, that's actually part of my appeal, so the process has been completely improper. They haven't followed their own guidelines. There are two different guidelines as to whether a complaint is dealt with the society itself, so Leeds Student Radio, or the union, and it's basically been a mishmash of both. So it's been an improper procedure, but it is, as far as I'm aware, it's the student union who's decided to remove me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Daily Mail now, and if you go to the gym, then the bane of your life is probably the New Year's resolution crowd joining for a week in January. But this gym has a solution, Paul.
Yeah, big problem for me, Leo. Meet the gym owner who has banned new members from joining this January, and why his existing gym goers love him for it. I say meet him. He's not here. It's not me, obviously. But this is Clayton Lear. Great name, mate. Is taking an unconventional approach and turning down new starters at the busiest time of year. I'll give his place a shout out as well. Ascendancy Fitness in Warrington, Cheshire. And I think that Luke Littler's from Warrington as well.
Oh, really? Maybe that's where he exercises his elbow.
I feel exactly the same way about McDonald's when they introduce a new burger. It feels right up. I can't get my usual seat. It's a right problem. I understand this.
Exactly the same. Yeah. That is so similar to this situation. I don't agree with this guy at all. By the way, I think he's wrong to decide other people. I think he's a miserable, controlling, judgmental freak who's telling other people why and how they.
Did you try and
doesn't sound like a gym owner at all?
I don't think. Yeah, exactly. Look, I think he's been a busybody and going. He says here. When people can't join, they say, he says, you should have joined sooner. And then they say, where's the bit I'm looking for here? Oh, right. He says, the only negative response people have in it is a case of, I was going to join, but now I can't. Like, well, what other responses? That's like you slap me around the face and then go, Kerry's only response was, ow, that hurts, so it's fine. Like, obviously their response is, I can't join. Let people join a gym and don't judge them. Or maybe you could say to them, join a different time and have a talk with them. But this is just arrogant.
Join in November. We've got the Daily Mail now with news for anyone doing dry Jan. She's asked if you can use some lube, Kerry.
This is arrogant as well. Nice, I'm just getting moved now.
Section 4 is where you've got angry.
Yeah. Exactly what actually happens to your body when you give up alcohol for dry January. This is the Daily Mail, who then don't tell you exactly what happens. They tell you generally what we all know is there are going to be some changes. And so some of her tips for the person they're giving advice from for abstaining include setting realistic goals. Brilliant idea. Find a palatable substitute drink. Amazing. Avoid temptations and practice how to say no. Who would have thought of that? This is absolutely amazing advice. Brilliant. So it'll improve your sleep. There's a whole page on the fact it'll improve your sleep. Your weight could change. Possibly. It might be good for your skin. I don't know whether you grow new skin or something. It just says skin here. Liver. You get a new liver. I'm guessing. I'm not
you were less angry about the front pages.
Yeah.
Let's try and quickly squeeze these last two in, because we've got the Telegraph now, and never mind eating the bugs, they want us to eat the weeds, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Why we should all be eating weeds. This wasn't written by my 5-year-old nephew. If your council is failing to keep on top of weeds in your area, consider this. The overgrown swathe of plants in your local park or on roadside verges could be part of your next meal.
Oh, they're going to put farmers out of business.
Yes.
Outrageous.
My garden's overgrown. Come eat it. You know, get people into this.
There's a lot of dogs messing those.
Yes, but they're saying don't eat the stuff near the sides of the road, because don't eat roadkill. Don't eat roadkill weeds. Yeah.
This is basically for what's going to happen after 4 years of Labour.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're turning to Venezuela. And quickly, we've got The Guardian weirdly asking if an online abuser is right. But it's OK because he's abusing right-wing people who they have decided are evil and deserve it, Kerry.
This is one of those most nonsense. This is the Guardian allowing you be the judge. Should my boyfriend stop trolling right-wing social media accounts? No, you should just not have a boyfriend of any kind, because you've written to the Guardian to discuss a problem that you should be discussing with your boyfriend. This is a chat. Have a coffee with him, talk about it. But instead, the people of the Guardian get to vote on that, and they also get to vote on whether someone called
the show
Marshall is guilty of something, and then another.
The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. We've got the Times with Starmer in Trump's sight. The Daily Mail leads with Starmer guilty as anyone over grooming gangs, says Maggie Oliver, the grooming gang's whistleblower. The Daily Express leads with it's a cop-out on social care reforms. The Eye has Starmer faces growing threat from reform over migration, poll reveals. The Mirror has nice Littler earner, that's Luke Littler winning the darts. And the Daily Star has Secretary of State for the bleeding obvious. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests Paul and Kerry. Steve N. Allen will be back tomorrow night at 11 p.m, joined by Nick Dixon and Lewis Shaver. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast. See you next time. Goodbye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled weekend ahead, multiple Met Office warnings in force, including some amber warnings for snow and ice. So do stay up to date on our website for those. For Friday evening, however, plenty of clear spells as a ridge of high pressure crosses the country. So likely to see some icy stretches. Once again, also a widespread frost. And then towards northern areas, this is where we have our yellow ice warning in force. So likely to see the bulk of the icy conditions here. But even across the south, likely to see a widespread sharp frost and also a chance of some ice here too. But plenty of clear skies overnight means temperatures are soon going to drop away. Most towns and cities dropping below zero by the time we reach Saturday morning. So a very cold start to Saturday, but there's also going to be lots of bright weather around too. Still can't rule out some showers around coastal areas of Scotland, particularly in the north where they're likely to fall as sleet and snow, mainly across hills, but we could also see some flurries to lower levels too. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a cold, icy start, still with a few showers feeding in around coasts. Also northwestern coast of Wales could see some showers, but for the bulk of England and Wales, largely dry and plenty of bright sunshine to start the day. But as I say, cold with a sharp frost and a risk of ice. Then through much of the day, there'll be plenty of dry weather around. Still, once again, those showers feeding into those northwestern coasts. And then a change on the way as we start to see this system push up from the southwest. So heavy outbreaks of rain by the afternoon, perhaps even some sleet and snow towards high ground across southern parts of Wales and also southwest England. But for the bulk of the country, lots of dry weather around on Saturday. Sunday, the system then becomes more widespread, seeing some outbreaks of snow, particularly across parts of Wales and northern England, where it could be disruptive at times. And even across the south, there's a chance we could see some freezing rain, so also some icy conditions possible. More sunshine as we head into next week, though it is going to be remaining cold. Bye-bye for now.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff. And my name is Julie. And we won $25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Penelope's, which is situated in the sophisticated Hotel Armano in Covent Garden, delivers punchy dishes from the executive chef Fez Ozalgan. London-born, she's of Turkish Cypriot heritage, and at the tender age of 16, she enrolled at Catering College. So, it's lovely to see you, Fez. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
So you're now in a very prestigious position. I'm always impressed that in the world of chefing, it's possible to get to very senior positions quite young if you're good enough. Talent is rewarded, is it not?
Definitely, yeah. It does take a lot of hard work, for sure. But, yes.
When did you know that you wanted to be a chef?
Honestly, because my parents have a cafe in Barking. And I used to go there when I was younger in school holidays and weekends to help them. And actually, I'll be honest, I just used to really admire everyone calling my dad chef, and that's what I wanted.
And what about your food inspirations? Because I believe the food that you produce now is what? Mediterranean influenced and also to some extent Middle East influenced?
Yeah, and Spanish as well at Penelope's, yeah. So our concept at Penelope's, our CEO, Ariel, he is Israeli, but he grew up in Marbella. So, yeah.
These are the great influences.
Yeah.
What have you brought here today?
OK, so we have our sea bream tartare, which is a really good inspiration of both Spanish and Israeli. It's marinated with harissa, and it's served with a really nice gazpacho sauce, caviar on top.
I wonder whether the camera can see that. It is the most gorgeous coloured sauce on top of my sea bream tartare. That's marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show we have Elvis tribute act Rick Gaynor. We also have Rory Green on the show for the first time, trade unionist Andy Twelves and self-proclaimed anarchist, that's Dr. Lisa McKenzie. But first, let's go to the news.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. Back to Lee in just a moment. First, though, the headlines. Elon Musk's comments on grooming gangs have been slammed today by the Health Secretary as misjudged and misinformed. The tech billionaire accused Sir Keir Starmer of inaction and said Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips deserves prison over her comments on child exploitation in Oldham. The Conservatives have also criticised Musk for sharing factually inaccurate claims, they say, and warned against distracting from survivors' needs. However, Wes Streeting has hit back and urged Musk to help tackle rape gangs.
Look, when it comes to tackling the serious issue of child sexual exploitation and abuse, I do think that online giants, social media companies have got a big part to play in helping us to identify and prosecute perpetrators of child sexual exploitation and abuse. So whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else, if those leaders of those giants want to work with this government, we're willing to work with tech giants to make sure that we keep young people safe online and free from exploitation.
The government is promising a shake-up of social care, but it could be years before big changes happen. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says an independent commission starting in April will grasp the nettle on reform, but its final report won't arrive until 2028. The review, chaired by Baroness Louise Casey, aims to improve support for older and disabled people. But Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey has said that the process needs to move much faster.
Yes, because Liberal Democrats have led the call for a cross-party commission, but given the crisis in social care and the impact that has on the NHS, we do need to move much faster. So the Liberal Democrats will be calling on for many more immediate measures to tackle the chronic shortage of staff in our care system, and for the pace of this commission to be accelerated significantly. We have to tackle this. The Conservatives left the care system, the NHS, in a total mess. So we know the crisis is deep, but we've had many reports before.
Flu cases in England's hospitals have quadrupled in just a month, with over 5,000 patients treated last week alone. NHS chiefs are warning of intense pressures as the virus pushes hospitals to what they've described as breaking point amid an expected cold snap this weekend. Health officials are urging vulnerable people to stay warm and to make sure their medications are on hand, with just 37% of those deemed at risk vaccinated so far. Emergency department waits are also worsening, with over 12,000 patients stuck in ambulances for an hour or more last week. And Luke Littler is on the brink of history, just one win away from becoming the youngest darts world champion ever. The 17-year-old will face Michael van Gerwen, chasing his fourth title in tonight's blockbuster final of the World Darts Championship. Littler has dominated the tournament so far with record-breaking performances. But the pair's head-to-head is currently tied 6-6, setting up for that thrilling showdown later between darts' rising star and one of its all-time greats. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Lee.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. And joining me once again this week is Dr. Lisa McKenzie, a self-proclaimed